Just bought the draft guide. It's great. Do you anticipate any updates now at the end of preseason to the rankings? So if you bought the draft guide, you get any other version that comes along with it. So if I do post like a major update, yes, but more than likely what I'll do is just add an additional the rankings update. I'll give you guys the rankings probably in the middle of the month. So that's how I'll do that instead of like trying to do a whole brand new draft guide that you got to download and figure out what's new in it. I'll probably just provide a rankings update with like some of the major things that have been on the update in its own little tab, if that makes sense. So I appreciate the feedback. I need it. If y'all happy with it, let me know. If y'all not happy with it, let me know. But there's a ton of shit in there, like 40 pages worth. So if you haven't downloaded the draft guide, do it. Do it. Show your boy some love, man. Show your boy some love. All right. We're going to get into these wide. I don't want to be on this side. I want to be on this side. We're going to get into these wide receiver rankings here in just a minute. What's up, Justin? Do most of your fantasy teams look alike, or do you try to mix things up? It depends, right? So I have different leagues. Like, none of my teams really look alike. I'll have some players. Like, you guys have seen my drafted teams, right? So, like, a lot of times if I'm really high on a player, I'll end up with that player a lot, like a Mike Evans, a Alvin Kamara. This year, probably like Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, George Pickens. I'll end up with a lot of those players, but that's absolutely not like what all my teams look like. I try to have a balance because guess what? If you mess up on one player, you're done. You're done. What the fuck? If you mess up on one player, why does this look like this? That's all right. We'll make it work. That's perfect right there. Right? That's perfect. If you mess up on one player, then like your teams are done. So I always try to do best player available. And most of the time, you don't always draft at the same spot, right? You're not always drafting at the spot 1 or spot 7. Not all your leagues are auction leagues. So, and in auction leagues, things happen. So I think you have to have a lot of players that you like. You can't be like, in this round, I'm only taking this player. Or shit, if my guy goes in 4th round, I got to take the guy I was going to take in the 5th round. I think you should have multiple players in tiers that you like and understand, even if it's a player you don't like, if they find value, take them. I've done that in drafts already with like Romo Dunze, who I've been kind of like down on somewhat. I found him on some of my teams. I think I've taken a couple guys like that where the values just hit and I'm like, all right, it's time to go. So, or like when I say I don't really like taking quarterback early. If the quarterback's good enough and it's the 5th round, 6th round, I'll take him. I'm like, shit, I'll find the value. So I don't try to mix things up. I just let the draft play out the way it's supposed to. Thoughts on Kamara this year? I think I have him in my top 10. A lot of people think he's fallen off. I think Kamara is a value this year in drafts, just like he was last year. He was RB11 last year, and he missed 3 games. So to me, I think I look at Kamara as a steal. Yet again, he's going around RB15 in most ADP. So I think he's a steal. Favorite pick in a 14-man league? They're all the same to me. So it just depends on your style. Like, I think I don't mind the mid round because then I could get Bijan and then I can come back around and probably get like Mike Evans, Diggs, one of the guys that I like versus I think towards the end of the 1st round, you either got to take 2 running backs or you got to take a receiver that you're like big on. So I probably would take Devontae Adams there. Some people take Puka Nacua. Marvin Harrison goes in that range in the 2nd round. So I think towards the end of the draft, you kind of have to like start reaching on that 2nd round guy, but I don't mind it. I don't mind if you get Saquon and Gibbs or Saquon and Taylor, or you get Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson. I don't think you're going to be too mad regardless. So I don't really have a favorite pick in any league. I normally like how most of my teams come out. I would say if I had a preference, it'd be like spot 4 or 5 in the draft. So 104, 105. Then it would be like 108. Then I think like once after the 110 is kind of where I'm like, I don't like that as much. And then I think the 101 through 103 is a good spot too. Is it possible to drop my team and let me know if I make change? Yeah, throw your team in the chat, bro. That's what we're here for. I'm going to answer a few more. I got to get to these rankings, though. I got to get to the wide receiver rankings. And I probably won't answer a whole lot but wide receiver questions during that time. Jay, any mocks today? Doubt it. Today's probably going to be more of a receiver day. So the way that this works, just so y'all know, the way that it works, I'll be doing the wide receiver part, and then I cut it up and I put it on the regular video tab. Because what I noticed, I didn't realize this last year, is we got people that watch the live, but a lot of people don't even see the live. They only see the videos I post. I didn't realize that. Or the shorts. I didn't realize that people were like, hey, where's your video? I didn't see it. and you don't actually get a chance to watch it on a live tab. So what I'm going to do is cut the receiver video up and make that its own separate video to watch later. So if you are dropping a question during that time, I'm probably going to answer more of the receiver stuff instead of spending a whole lot of time on like the team. So get that in now. Think Kyler will finish top 3-5 running quarterbacks? No, I think Kyler's one of those quarterbacks where he can finish a top 5 quarterback. It just depends on the health, right? So I would say this: Anthony Richardson, Lamar, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray. Those guys all are top 5 quarterbacks. It's just we have to rank them, if that makes sense. So I think he can finish there. Now, will he? And who stays healthy for all 17? That's probably who we're going to see in the top 3. Jahan, I think Ladd is in the wide receiver 1 category. Fucking Ladd, bro. Hey, he's been shining in camp. I can't knock him. I mean, if you want to take a flyer on him as a wide receiver 4 or 5, I'm not absolutely mad at that. I'm not. All right, a couple more, and then I'm getting into these rankings, okay? Got to get into these rankings. Burrow, Brees, Henry, A.J. Brown, Drake London, Laporta, Diggs, Mike Evans. I love the team. In a 10-man, in a dynasty league, this is stacked. I don't even know why you had to ask, bro. This team is stacked. You got Zamir, Javonte, Christian Kirk, Pitts. This is a 9 out of 10, bro. This team is stacked. You can't ask for nothing more than that. That's perfect. Somebody asking about the music. Did y'all like the album? Nino, you like the album or are you laughing? I see the laughing. Dropping any more music. Was this a joke? Because I ain't want to be played with, bruh. You feel me? I ain't want to be played with. I might just drop a diss track for your ass. Come on here playing and shit, laughing. You ain't feeling the vibes? You ain't feeling the dubs in the chat? Or were you showing love? Let me know if you was showing love or hating. Be real. Say it with your chest. If you gonna say it with your chest. I'm showing love or I'm hating. Let me know. Romeo Dobbs, wide receiver 1. Jaden Reed's the guy. They were just talking about how they want to give him the ball as much as possible. So Romeo Dobbs, bro, he's the number 2. I think he's the number 2 over Wicks. Everybody was excited about Wicks, but Jaden Reed, he's gonna be. I might got to move him up last year too, bro. I might got to move him up. Haven't made it through the full guide yet, but where I struggle in mocks is my bench. I can target the right starters, but those last rounds, not sure I'm getting the right guys. I'd say I could do like a bench update, but that's kind of tough because it has to be your guy, right? And those, I would say this: anybody outside of the top, outside of your starters is going to be kind of a dart throw anyway, right? So the way to address the bench is looking at, did I get enough upside to go along with my starting caliber players in case somebody gets hurt? So you have to view it as that, like Gabe Davis, Jerry Jeudy, and Curtis Samuel. I'm never recommending those guys to people that need upside. But if you need like a Jameson Williams, you want a Ladd McConkey, you want Marvin Mims, you want a Jamo, you want Rashad Bateman, you want some of these guys that just have more upside, more pure upside. That's how you play your bench. At running back, same thing. You can go young guy that might have a chance to take over starting role. Blake Corum, Trey Benson, Braylon Allen, Tyron Tracy, Bucky Irving, right? You could take one of those guys, but it depends on the guy that's in front of them and their role. So I would say this: if you're struggling in the bench, do more homework on the players. Do more homework on the players because you have to know if you're taking floor or if you're taking ceiling. And I think that's more important to me than the actual names because it's a dart throw. We don't know if Kyron's getting hurt. We don't know if Brees Hall's getting hurt. We don't know if CMC's getting hurt and Eli Mitchell has a role. So you have to decide on your bench. You have to decide the upside versus floor and who are you drafting? Who has the most upside? Who has the best floor? Like that's what I'm evaluating during that time. But I appreciate that feedback. I really do. Really appreciate that feedback. Do you think Diggs can bounce back and be top 5 receiver in H-Town this year? I don't know about top 5, 10. Maybe top 10. I think maybe top 10. Top 12, I think, is a lock. Top 12 is a lock. All right, last one. I'm going to get into these receiver rankings, and I'll go through a couple of them real quick. People fading Kamara like they've been fading Evans. They both perform. Exactly. Ladd McConkey here. Ladd McConkey going to the Irish pub. Jahan, I'm starting to really like Javonte. Lost weight in shining camp. Yo, I talked about Javonte. I talked about him, but Yeah, Javante. I think Javante is gonna be him, man. It's just the leash is so short. You know, he plays wrong. Audric Estime is gonna get in there. So, all right, at least it's not hate. Say, remember you were giving sneak peeks. Check out the album. It's in my bio. If you look at the Beacons link, or it's on Apple Music, just search my name. You should be able to find it. I think you can actually. I'm not sure. Trey, what's good, bro? What's popping? All right, let me get to this list. Let me get to this list. How y'all doing? You guys like the late stream? Which one y'all like, the early stream or the late stream? I feel like the late stream already has a different vibe to it. Y'all agree with that? I feel like it has a whole different vibe to it than like the early stream, bro. I'm not gonna hold you. I ain't gonna hold you. I really think this late night stream might be it, bro. I might do some more late shit. How late will y'all want to see this shit, bro? Honestly, how late? Like, if I was on 2 hours later, if I came on at like 8:30, would y'all watch this shit? All right. Let's go with the rankings, right? So obviously we got to talk about the wide receiver one candidates, and this is players that I think will be drafted at the top, but actually have a legit chance at being the wide receiver one. First and foremost, we got to go back to last year's wide receiver one, CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, the contract situation has to work itself out. He's got to get on the field playing, but if they get the contract situation worked out with him and he is playing and he ends his holdout, there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get force fed again, get every opportunity to be the player he was last year. So CeeDee Lamb is up there. And then next, we got Tyreek Hill. Obviously, this guy is a threat for 2,000 yards anytime he steps on the field in this offense. And we saw last year, up until he got hurt later in the year, and Tua started playing a little bit worse. Like, he could be that. I don't know if he gets 2,000 yards, but he's obviously going to be a threat in this offense no matter what. So he belongs for sure in the wide receiver one category. Next up, this is a hard person for me to put up here, but I'm going to. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, I think St. Brown can be the wide receiver one. It's just he would have to take he would have to take on a different role for this team that now has Jahmyr Gibbs, that now has Sam Laporta, that is obviously going to try to get more work to Jameson Williams, but they did lose some of their key receivers like the Josh Reynolds of last year, some guys that they were just throwing in there. My gut is that the only way that St. Brown hits this is if CeeDee Lamb does not work out his contract stuff and does not play for maybe a portion of the year or is very late to the season, or if Tyreek Hill suffers an injury or a second half kind of a fall off like he did last year, and Amon-Ra takes a big leap up. If he got 1,700 yards, 1,600 yards, I don't think that would shock anybody this season. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, also a candidate to be the wide receiver one. Next up, I know he doesn't have a quarterback, but we cannot forget about Justin Jefferson. Now, Justin Jefferson, even without a quarterback, I mean, he could put up 1,700 yards this season. I don't think that would shock anybody, especially if Darnold is playing in the way that J.J. McCarthy has looked in practice, throwing deep balls. If he gets better as the season goes on, I would love to see that with Justin Jefferson. If he could have some good accuracy and deliver the deep ball well. So Justin Jefferson is definitely up here in this conversation as well. I don't think you can take that away from him. And then I think two more candidates I would put in there. That's it. Two more. And A.J. Brown is one of them. Now, obviously, this Kellen Moore offense is going to require these receivers to go downfield a little bit more. This passing attack is going to be a little bit more potent than it was. A.J. Brown could have a really nice year, especially if he gets more consistency. Last year, he started off kind of slow. He asked for more targets. And then there was a time later in the year where he got a little slower as well. But he had a stretch of about 4 or 5 games where it looked like he could be the best receiver in football. And it wouldn't shock me if things just didn't pan out for St. Brown, or some of the same things I talked about with CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill emerge. Then A.J. Brown has a outside chance, I would say, at being the wide receiver one. But in that offense, like I said, under Kellen Moore, and just knowing that there's a few question marks ahead of him, maybe a little bit less of a ceiling for Amon-Ra St. Brown, it wouldn't be shocking to see A.J. Brown go off for a career season as well while he's in his prime. And then the last player I have to talk about in this category is Ja'Marr Chase. I don't really see a true shot at him being the wide receiver one, but it's for the same reasons that I just talked about with A.J. Brown. If any of these guys slips up, Ja'Marr Chase does have like 1,500 yards, 1,600 yards ceiling. So do I necessarily see it? No. And I know he's asking for another contract as well. It depends on his health and Burrow's health. But he has an outside chance of being the wide receiver one. in my opinion. I think there's less of a chance that he does it than like an AJ Brown or Amon-Ra St. Brown. How y'all feeling about these rankings? How y'all feel about these rankings? Y'all agree, disagree? Jahan, honestly, I think AJ Brown can be a wide receiver one candidate. I see it too. It's just a matter of does everybody else ahead of him have decent seasons? Does he play all 17? And which of the four ahead of him like drops? So if the quarterback issues really get to Justin Jefferson, if the ceiling really is limited for St. Brown, if Tyreek Hill deals with some of that stuff he was dealing with towards the end of the second half last year, and if CeeDee Lamb doesn't get his contract situation out, then like AJ Brown does have a real opportunity. Or if he just looks really good in this offense, and then that really applies for Jamar Chase as well. Dobbs is the most chemistry with love. Yeah, we're going to talk about Romeo Dobbs here in just a second. Oh, y'all like the late streams, huh? Y'all like the late streams? All right, bet. Will Shipley, the guy at Barkley, goes down. I don't know about that. Man. But they've been using him in the red zone. I'm in the Pacific time zone, homie. All right, late stream for the win then. We'll do more late streams. Speedy and Tyreek at the top. I ain't mad at that. I don't think St. Brown could be the one. Like I said, the only ways I think I see it, but what happens if Tyreek Hill suffers the second half? You know what I'm saying? Like in the second half, Tua falls off again. And they had a nasty stretch down the playoffs, right? I've talked about that. Like, what happens if they slow down a little bit this year? What happens if that hamstring, which normally bothers him in the second half, what happens if that happens again, right? So there's a lot of what ifs when it comes to it, but that's where I have him at. And then CeeDee Lamb, obviously, I think that's holdout contingent. He's consistent. You know you're getting 1,500 from St. Brown this year. I agree. AJ hasn't dropped the ball a single time at practice. It's practice. They just put on pads. I hear you, Trey. I hear you. But we got to see that in the games, too. And AJ Brown's normally pretty sure-handed, so I'm not knocking AJ Brown at all. But I feel good about him in that tier. Jamar could go down a tier. Why you say that? Why you think that? Feel like these top six can't be argued. I think this is where the tier breaks, in my opinion. And I don't, I think there's a lot of people who might debate me on Jamar Chase and think he's higher, but that's where I got him until he's been a top 5 guy, mostly been a top 10 guy in his career. I got to see it. Love St. Brown. I think his ceiling isn't wide receiver one, though. Everything else, I agree. All right, bet. Let's get into this next one. So I think here's where the clear, like, to me, at least to hear the clear tier break is. And at the top of this tier break, I got to go with my guy, Davante Adams, who has been pretty much a wide receiver one his entire career. And I think he stays locked in that role. He was a top 10 guy or top 11 guy last year. And I don't really see that changing with him. So when I talk about back end wide receiver one or high end wide receiver two, depending on your league size, Davante is going to be that with competent quarterback play. And if he has a healthy season, he's going to be at least a 1,200-yard, 10-touchdown guy. That's just who he is. So Davante Adams obviously belongs in this tier, no matter if it's Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. My next player I put in this tier is also going to be a wide receiver one, and always is a wide receiver one, especially with this new offense now under Liam Cohen. Mike Evans, a lot of people are concerned about Chris Godwin's role in this offense, stepping up in the slot. But why is that going to take away from Mike Evans when Baker throws the deep ball with the best of them? He takes shots downfield. So although we won't see as much of Mike in the slot, he just got paid. I think Mike is one of the more consistent options that we have out of this realm right here. This next wide receiver one, wide receiver two tier might get a little long. I ain't going to lie to y'all, right? So this is going to be a pretty dense tier of players that could be wide receiver ones or wide receiver twos. And I think consistency-wise, Mike Evans belongs there. Next up, I think this one requires a little bit of leap of faith, just like it did last year. It didn't pan out last year because Aaron Rodgers was out. But Garrett Wilson should take a massive leap up. He was a 1,000-yard guy with Zach Wilson and the randoms throwing to him there with the Jets. But Aaron Rodgers expected back. Will be looking his way in the red zone. Probably take some shots deep with Garrett Wilson. I think this is a safe spot to put him in this wide receiver one, wide receiver two tier. I think at floor, we can expect him to be a top 15 guy if Aaron Rodgers plays the entire season. All right, next up, get to some of the more dicey names. I think for sure we could put Puka Nacua in this tier as well. I mean, he was a top 10 receiver last year. Most of the season, he was a top 5 guy. I don't know exactly where he finished. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Puka Nacua belongs in this tier, and Stafford was force-feeding him. Obviously, the team lost Aaron Donald in the offseason, so they're going to have to rely a lot more on their offense. I think he's being drafted a little higher than I would want to take him, but he belongs in this category because I don't think he finishes outside of the top 15 or 16 receivers. All right, next up in this tier, my man Drake London. Where you at, Drake? Drake, the light-skinned Drake. Drake London, there he goes. And yes, I know this is probably one of the more debatable ones. A lot of people don't like Drake London for whatever reason. He's let people down in the past, but I got a feeling this Atlanta offense is going to be humming under Zach Robinson, new offensive coordinator, and Raheem Morris, who's emphasized getting the ball to his playmakers. So this isn't Desmond Ridder anymore. This isn't anybody, ain't no backups. This is Kirk Cousins coming into the fold, and Drake London's going to be a big part of this offense. No matter what we're saying about Bijan Robinson, no matter what we're saying about Kyle Pitts, Drake London is going to be a focal piece of this offense. Should be a top 15 guy here. Next up, a focal point for the Niners offense, Deebo Samuel. And I would have had Brandon Ayuk higher had we known he was going to play and had we known he's getting paid. But I'm also going to put Brandon Ayuk right here just because of a little uncertainty. I would have ranked Brandon Ayuk higher than Deebo Samuel if we knew he was re-signing and he was good to go. I don't know how this holdout's going to go. So for now, it's a temporary hold on Brandon Ayuk's value. Could change, but both of these guys should be wide receiver 2 worthy or higher, top 15 type players when they play. Brandon Ayuk for consecutive seasons now has been a top 15 guy. And then Deebo Samuel, when he's been healthy, is always a threat to be a top 12 wide receiver. So both Niners receivers belong in this conversation, and both should be able to finish as top 15 receivers.